for the service of the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, for the financial year commencing from 1st January and ending on the 31st December 2026, and for other matters connected therewith. 2026 SB 1020. Second reading.
Distinguished colleagues, a bill for an act to authorize the issue from the Federal Capital Territory Administration Statutory Revenue Fund of the Federal Capital Territory Administration account, the total sum of 2,201,098,676,153 naira only, of which the sum of 165,755,220,839 naira only is for personnel costs, and the sum of 378,231,411,697 naira only is for overhead costs, while the balance of 1,657,092,043,697 naira only is for capital projects for the service of the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, for the financial year ending 31st day of January, commencing 31st day of January and ending on the 31st day of December 2026, and for other related matters connected therewith, 2026 SB 1020. Second reading taken. This bill is now committed to the Committee on FCT and FCT Area Councils to revert to the Senate in 1 week. Let me commend my colleagues for the expeditious manner in which this passed through the second reading, and thank the leader for bringing this to the fore, and also join the Deputy Senate President and other senators to commend the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory for making the country proud with infrastructural development. In fact, the APC as a party must also be commended for finding the right man for the right job, because so far the election of the FCT that just finished showed clearly that the people appreciate the work of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in the FCT, where we won 5 out of the 6 council positions, chairmanship, and many other councillors. And so this is historic. This is actually the first time the party in power has cleared all the elections in the FCT. And if you go through the FCT, and particularly the area councils, you'll be amazed at the level of development. In the past, it was always within the capital city, but now development has been taken to the nooks and crannies of the various area councils in the FCT. So for this, we commend the Honourable Minister, Nyesom Wike, for doing a good job. And now that we are expediting this appropriation for 2026, we want to encourage him to do more for the benefit of Nigeria and to showcase the FCT as a capital worthy of note, and for all Nigerians to be proud of in due course. So this bill will revert now to the committees on FCT and FCT area councils to be reported to the Senate in 1 week. Yes, next item.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the second order of the day is the screening and confirmation of the nomination of Mr. Taiwo Oyedele for appointment as a Minister of the Government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria in accordance with the provision of Section 147, subsection 2 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 as altered. Mr. President, distinguished senators, in order to carry out this exercise in conformity with our Standing Order 12 on floor privileges, I will move 2 motions. First, that the Senate do resolve into the Committee of the Whole to conduct the confirmation hearing. And also, we move that the Senate do admit the special advisor to the President of National Assembly Matters, Senate, the nominee, and other government officials into the Senate chamber as strangers for the purpose of this screening. I so move, Mr. President.
Yes, the minority leader.
Mr. President, I like to second the two motions moved by the Senate leader. One, that we suspend our rules to allow strangers to enter the chambers, and two, that we should resolve to Committee of Whole to consider the screening of the presidential nominee. Also second.
Distinguished colleagues, the motions have been moved and seconded. Those in support that we suspend our rules to allow strangers to approach the hallowed chamber of the National Assembly, and also go into Committee of the Whole to commence further screening of the President's nominee for ministerial appointment. Say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it.
The Ministerial Nominee, Mr. Taiwo Oyedele, has been admitted into the chamber for the screening exercise. He was accompanied by the Special Advisor to the President on National Assembly Matters Senate, Senator Bashir Lado. Taiwo Oyedele, before his appointment as a Minister of the Government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, headed the Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms. The committee was saddled with the responsibility of the recent tax reforms, which came into effect in January 2026. Mr. Taiwo Oyedele, the Ministerial Nominee, is from Ondo State. He obtained a higher national diploma in accountancy and finance from Yaba College of Technology and BSc in applied accounting at the Oxford Brookes University. Those are a few of his qualifications. He's now being admitted into the red chamber for the confirmation screening exercise. Before being nominated as a minister, Mr. Taiwo was the chairman of the Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms, set up by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and given a broad mandate to carry out critical reforms bordering on fiscal governance, transformation of Nigeria's revenue generation, and facilitation of economic growth. Now, prior to that, Mr. Oyedele was the fiscal policy partner and Africa tax leader at PwC, where he worked for over 2 decades, rising to top leadership positions, and he has in-depth knowledge and diverse experience ranging from tax advisory and policy advocacy to business matters. He's an accountant and an economist by training. He's also an author. He's a keynote speaker. He's a mentor. And he's also a commentator on issues relating to finance, business, economic matters, and all that. He is a fellow of the Nigeria Leadership Initiative and member of the Nigeria Leadership of the Global Tax Forum and a former member of the Global Governance Forum. Mr. Oyedele is an associate professor at the Babcock University and a guest lecturer at the Lagos Business School. He is an alumnus of the London School of Economics and Political Science, Yale University, and Harvard Kennedy School Executive Education. He is the founder and president of Impact Africa Foundation. If confirmed today after the screening exercise, as communicated in the letter from the presidency, he will take up the position of the Minister of State Finance, taking over from Annette Zoka, who has been moved to Ministry of Budget and Economic Planning.
Mr. President, very distinguished senators of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, having suspended Order 12 on floor privileges, and with the consent of the distinguished Senate, having admitted strangers as described in our rules into the chamber, I want to say that we now have before us the Special Advisor to Mr. President on National Assembly Matters, Senate, our colleague, distinguished Senator Bashir Lado, here to present to us the presidential nominee in the person of Professor Taiwo Oyedele. And Mr. President, Mr. Taiwo Oyedele is also accompanied by a lot of accomplished citizens of our country. And in a moment, I will pass the list of those accompanying him to you, Mr. President, as our presiding officer, to duly acknowledge their presence. It's just for me to now inform that the Chamber is ready, as certified by the Chief Whip, and the Senate is ready for the screening to commence. I thank you.
Mr. Taiwo Oyedele, you may take the stand. Step forward. Yeah, here to be screened. So first, let me congratulate you on your nomination by Mr. President. So you are accompanied by Dr. Tolu Adegigbe, Prince Daudu David, Elizabeth Aluku, Honorable Benga Elegbeleje. I got it. Elegbeleje. Down, not up. I said Elegbeleje. Elegbeleje. And then Honorable Yehubi Isaac, Mr. Arbet Olarunsho, and then we have Commissioner of Justice. Is that right? I should have been Attorney General first now. Commissioner, anybody can be commissioner, but Attorney General is recognized by the Constitution. So the Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice, Kayode Ajulo, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. Prince, this one is a well-known name. Prince Tokumbo Kayode, is that the former minister? Former Minister of Defense. Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Commander of the Order of the Niger. Welcome to the Hello Chambers and all other people accompanying the nominee, including his wife and children. They are all welcome to the Hello Chambers. Yes, give us a brief resume of yourself, and thereafter answer questions from distinguished senators who may have some questions to ask, and it's not limited to your professional career, your competence, your character, and any other thing you think can bring to the fore. But just brief resume for now.
Your Excellency, the President of the Senate and Chairman of the National Assembly, distinguished Senator Godswill Obot Pabio, GCON, Your Excellency, the Deputy President of the Senate, distinguished Senator Barau Ibrahim Jibrin, CFR, the principal officers of the Senate, very distinguished senators of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the special advisor to the President on Senate matters, Senator Bashir Ladu, CON, ladies and gentlemen, I'm deeply honored to appear before this distinguished chamber today. I thank His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, for the confidence reposed in me through this nomination. And I thank the Senate for the opportunity to share my thoughts on our national fiscal priorities and collective vision, in addition to my curriculum vitae. With over 2 decades of leadership experience, working with national and regional government, multilateral institutions, and global corporations on a range of issues such as business strategy to advance fiscal governance, public finance, and economic transformation. My professional journey across the private sector, academia, and public policy has provided me with extensive experience in fiscal and economic matters. However, this moment is not about my personal accomplishments. It is a call to serve our country at a critical time when Nigeria faces significant fiscal challenges, but also remarkable opportunities. The choices we make in public finance today will shape the prosperity, stability, and well-being of Nigerians both now and in the nearest future. So I'd like to briefly speak with your permission, Mr. President, on financing Nigeria for sustainable development, starting with our present fiscal reality. Distinguished senators, our fiscal reality is well known. Government revenue remains low relative to the size of our economy, while demands on government continue to rise, from infrastructure and healthcare to education, security, and social protection. Economies that cannot generate sufficient revenue to meet their basic obligations struggle to secure their borders, protect their citizens, and maintain social cohesion. Fiscal fragility amplifies insecurity through unemployment, poverty, illicit economies, and weakened state capacity. Just to give context as to the size of the challenges, but also the size of the opportunities. In 2025, Nigeria earned less than $130 equivalent per capita in revenue. This amount is 10 times smaller than the average for the top 5 economies in Africa, including Nigeria. That is South Africa, Egypt, Morocco, as well as Algeria. Now, in addition to that, despite having about 1/10 of the revenue of these other 4 African countries, our deficit as a percentage of total budget is even 3 times more than these other African countries. These constrain public spending per capita to less than 10% of the same group. We are unable to spend sufficiently for our development, whether it's infrastructure to human capital development. This is our current reality, but it doesn't have to remain like this. We can change this narrative and guarantee our country a better future. Our medium to long-term goal should therefore be...
We'll get to that point. But for now, just summarize your CV, and then so that we can ask you the question, then you will now educate us.
All right.
You are about to lecture us on the situation globally. Distinguished colleagues, am I right? Because it's about to lecture us on the global economic realities. So just give us a brief resume of yourself, and then, for instance, your state of origin, your name, and then whether you are married or single, we want to know, and whether you went to school, did you go to evening school or afternoon school? And then those are the things we want to know now. Thereafter, you will go into, and when you are answering the questions, you can now, because you are full of fire now, from what I'm seeing. So do that in the next 2 minutes. Senators will ask you questions and you answer.
Thank you, Your Excellency. So my name is Taiwo Oyedele. I'm from Ikaramakoko in Ondo State. Indeed, I'm 100% Nigerian. I went to a primary school in the village called Ikaramakoko Local Authority. the local authority school that I went. Of course, that meant local government was financing it at that time, and it was free. When I finished from my secondary school, from my primary school, I went also to a community secondary school, a school called Community Comprehensive High School, Ikaramakoko, where I was fortunate to graduate as the best student and won a scholarship that I'm very proud of 500 naira that enabled me to write my final secondary school exams. I proceeded from there to the Federal Polytechnic, from there to the Yaba College of Technology for my higher national diploma. After that, I did some foreign degree courses, including BSc in accounting from Oswald Brooks University in the UK, and some executive courses in Harvard, Yale, as well as Gordon Business School and London School of Economics and Political Science. So the schools I attended were full-time, not part-time. I'm happily married to a woman, and I have 2 children. So I've had the opportunity to work in the private sector, but actually my real love, something that I love more than taxation, is to teach people. So that interest in teaching has taken me to about 3 universities today, where I'm a professor of practice at Babcock University. I'm a guest lecturer at the Lagos Business School, as well as University of Lagos. Before my current role, where I was invited by Mr. President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to help lead about 100 other Nigerians from all walks of life to look at our fiscal system, including the new tax laws. Before then, I'd worked in the private sector, rose to a leadership position within PricewaterhouseCoopers, which is one of the top 4 global consulting firm worldwide. And I left as the Africa tax leader and policy leader for PwC. I had responsibility for more than 20 countries across Africa. I'd worked on different reforms, including for more than 10 years on the global reform on the ease of doing business and paying taxes in about 180 countries around the world. So all of these felt like God was preparing me to be able to help my country, because knowing what works in other countries and what doesn't work, why you can't copy and paste, gives you an idea of what is possible. In the past 2.5 years, Mr. President, we have been able to, working with so many Nigerians, develop a lot of reform initiatives, including those 4 tax reform laws, for which we are extremely grateful to the National Assembly. Without the National Assembly, we would not have those laws today. And those laws are taking us to the future. We also have, beyond that, a number of things we've worked on beyond taxation, including revenue from government assets, government-owned enterprises, harmonization of agencies, money from investment, as well as how we spend our money. To be honest, I think the question people have asked us the most with this reform is, when we pay our taxes, what is the assurance that the money will be used for their purpose? And I think this is a very legitimate question, which we think as a country we need to do better. So I think I'll stop here. I'm grateful for the opportunity, Your Excellency.
I must thank you for now recognizing what you ought to have done first. So, who is going to, the Deputy Senate President, you want to ask the first question?
Thank you, Mr. President. Let me say, for the purpose of going through this kind of exercise, going through our ritual, if I would say, Mr. Taiwo is known to us. We all know him. We have interacted with him severally, individually and has said it. We know him very well. His competence is not in doubt. We know he's very competent. We know his pedigree. He has a sound pedigree. We don't need to look at his resume. We know him very well. He's an expert. We've interacted with him. He has been here. He has answered several questions. He has shown his competence. He's very, very competent. That's a fact. Not even to us, to Nigerians. And I want to congratulate you and also commend the president for nominating you. That said, I don't want to go to the issue of competence because you are competent. No doubt about that. We will just tell you, just go because we know you and we know what you can do. But my question is this. Apart from taxation, we have, we are endowed as a nation. We have solid minerals scattered all over the country. Even my village is gold. Kabo, there's gold in Kabo local government. But the issue is this. We've not been able to tap the appropriate revenue from our solid mineral. Talking about only petroleum and so on and so forth. Now, as a minister of the Federal Republic, what can you do? What will you do differently so that we'll be able to harness, to harvest the revenue that we need to harvest from our solid mineral deposits through exploration and exploitation of this God-given endowment. What we see every day, we see the Chinese coming to exploit these minerals, take them away to their country. Not only Chinese, other nationals also do the same. But the fact is that when you look at our revenue package, the revenue framework, the revenue profile, you don't see much in terms of revenue coming from solid mineral in the revenue profile. What do you think you can do to make sure that we harvest what we need to harvest in terms of revenue to our nation when you become a minister?
Now, please just jot them down. And if you are tired, we'll provide you with a seat. So you can sit down and write. But I see you're a young man and you are capable of standing. So if you are tired, just indicate and I'll get you a seat. But jot those things down so that you answer them not one by one in a series of questions to take it together. Senator, the way you are pointing your finger at me is as if you are asking me. Because of how close you are, I can't help but see you. My eye caught you since. Okay. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Mohamed Taiwo. I represent Borno North Senatorial District. Well, I also joined the Deputy Senate President in adopting all the encomiums that was attributed to you by him and adopt same as mine. Well, my own is the Nigerian economy is largely public sector driven. It is only when the government spends that it will generate multiplier effect in the economy, thereby bringing food on the table of Nigerians, create employment and what have you. But we have started witnessing a very sad trajectory in our budgetary implementation. And I am posing this question to you based on your background and peradventure if Mr. President in his own wisdom decide to take you to Ministry of Finance. That is why it's going. Oh, it's already mentioned. Okay, so that question is apt and germane to you. My question is, we have started witnessing a very ugly scenario of non-implementation of budget. And the economy is public sector driven. For example, in 2025, we have zero allocation with regard to capital projects. Yes, with regard to implementation. Zero allocation.
Zero implementation.
Zero release. Zero release of capital component of the budget. So, what steps are you going to do to nip in the bud this ugly scenario of non-implementation of the capital component of the budget that has negatively impacted on the economy? And we are now witnessing avalanche of protests by contractors across the nooks and crannies of the country. Thank you.
Dismissed Senator Yahya Abdullahi.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. My question is quite directly related to that of the Chief Whip. And I think I also share the position on the competence and the professional propriety, adopting the nominee. But my question is an extension of what the Chief Whip has said. Recently, and I think over the past 2 to 3 years, Mr. President has succeeded in stabilizing the economy, bringing down inflation down. So a lot of the monetary side of the economy is in order, or getting in order. But I just want to ask you, if you eventually sit in that office, what are you going to do about the fiscal side, not the tax side? The tax side, I think that one has been answered with the tax reform bills, which have now become law. And I want to congratulate you for having been a leader in that very supreme effort of Mr. President. But then, you have to pursue growth. What we have, you are pursuing a fight against inflation, a fight for fiscal stability, for monetary stability, but you are not pursuing growth. And like the Chief Whip said, that's where the issue is, because the Nigerian economy depends a lot on public spending. If you curtail public spending, what you are actually doing is that you will go to stagnation. And once the economy stagnates, the inflationary pressures that you are fighting are going to rear their ugly heads and consume us all. So we want to know, when you become a minister in the Ministry of Finance, what fiscal policy initiatives, apart from the taxation which you have already done, in area of government spending, and particularly implementation of the budget, where are you going to come and make sure that these issues are tackled in order for the economy not to go into stagnation? One of the major issues that I think very few of us have ever confronted was the specter of having contractors that are not owing too much, coming to demonstrate in front of the National Assembly, preventing the National Assembly from doing his work, and blocking the Ministry of Finance for a pittance of the work that they have not been paid. This is an aberration on the image of this country, which I hope when you get into the Ministry of Finance, you should be able to correct. But policy initiatives have to be raised in such a way that growth is restored to the Nigerian economy. Thank you.
It's very rare for the public to have confidence and love for tax collectors, even in the holy books. Tax collectors are never loved, but you can see the avalanche of encomiums from you. Your intellect is not in doubt. Your capability is not in doubt. You are very cerebral. And then we want you to know how you are going to bring all these to bear, together with the experience you have in numerous countries in issues like this. For instance, public spending will give you more tax. Lack of public spending will lead to a stagnation of the economy. Nigerians depend largely on government. When contractors get paid, it will go down to the people and the people will pay taxes. More spending will help the economy and all that. But we have had issues where we haven't had too much expenses or too much spending coming from the Ministry of Finance. So, and you are going to that ministry. So they just want to know what you do differently to rejig the economy and assist Mr. President to transform his policies down to the grassroots. So you can go ahead. Particularly under your tenure as minister, you want to tell us that you will never have contractors coming to block National Assembly and block Ministry of Finance because you are going to ensure that the obligations are met real time. Am I right? Real time. So go ahead. Our Deputy Senate President said that the contractors will even block you from going into your office.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, the President of the Senate. I'll take the first one from the distinguished Deputy President of the Senate. And the question was really apt, which is to say, apart from taxation, what else are we going to be doing around natural resources that will do differently to make a difference? Thank you very much, distinguished, for that question. Essentially, what we believe is that we have, for many years as a country, disproportionately focused on taxation and oil and gas. And that has taken our attention away from many other areas where we can generate revenue, including solid minerals, including government assets, including government-owned enterprises, and so on and so forth. But to focus on solid minerals, what we have identified is that the biggest impediment to why that sector is not growing the way it should is policy. And I'll give one example which the National Assembly was able to help with. It was in Nigeria LNG. When it was time for Nigeria LNG to invest, they were unwilling to invest, and their major reason is there's too much uncertainty. We've had instances in Nigeria before in the past when government will award something and then they'll reverse it. In fact, we're still discussing yesterday at my office about our refineries. At a point it was reversed. But once the National Assembly gave a guarantee, we enacted a law to give the guarantee to NLNG. We all see the results today. I think that is instructive in two ways. One, it means we can take particular interest in the solid mineral sector.
Point of order.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, our rules compels me at 2:45 p.m. to rise on a motion for extension of time to enable us sit beyond 3 p.m. Mr. President, I most respectfully admit that because of the seriousness of the issue on the floor, our colleagues trying to see how the nominee would translate from the side of revenue to that of expenditure, and the nominee displaying so much brilliance for Nigerians to see. I was caught up in that. So I want to apologize that I did not do this at 2:45 p.m. It was not done timelessly. It was not done real time. So, Mr. President, sitting as chair, I want to move that time be extended based on Order 8, sub 3 of our rules, that we agree to sit beyond 3 p.m. to enable us conclude the issue at hand, and also that I be deemed to have done so at 2:45 p.m. I so move.
Yes, Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Our very distinguished colleagues, I write to second the motion moved by Senate leader that we extend our time beyond 2 p.m. to enable us complete 3 p.m. to enable us complete this very important national assignment. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, the motions have been moved. One, to deem the motion as having been moved by 2:45 p.m. and two, that we do extend our time beyond 3 p.m. in line with our rules to conclude the business of the day. Those in support of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Time is hereby extended beyond 3 p.m. Yes, our nominee, you have the floor.
Thank you, Your Excellencies. So, in a nutshell, the priorities will be one, to work with the team. The Minister for Solid Minerals have been doing a lot, but we need to then complement that with the policy certainty environment, and we may be coming to the National Assembly in this regard. Once we can fix the policy, I think the other issues are secondary, which many of the investors locally and globally are familiar with in terms of how they manage them. So the second question is from the distinguished Senator Mongunu from Borno. Very important point around the fact that our economy is largely public sector driven. Even though our journey is to move towards a private sector-led economy, but it won't happen overnight. And therefore, it's important that from the public sector perspective, when we have budgets, we need to ensure that there is funding behind them, and we need to ensure that there are releases so that we can execute 100% if possible, particularly for capital expenditure. So what do I see? What I've seen just looking at Nigeria's budget over the past 5 years in particular is that we've had too many years when our budgets seemed too ambitious compared to our revenue. We were not focusing on the revenue side. We were aspirational, which is good. But at the end of the day, I can say to you that today, federal government and states combined, we have nearly half of our budget, which is deficit financed. So what we need to then pay more attention to is realistic revenue to drive your budget, and whatever gaps you have to do cash management planning. You know, you've allocated an amount because an area is considered to be important. If there's no money to support it, it's as good as not having been allocated. In my role, if I'm confirmed by this distinguished Senate, will be to first try and create a picture of where we are, like a status quo analysis. In many countries, you even have quantification of what we call domestic arrears. If you are owing contractors, we should know it. We should say, as of today, this is how much we are owing contractors. This is how much we have. This is what the gap is, and this is how we will raise that money. So I think that analysis will be very, very important. And then the other thing is, beyond the revenue number and the budget and how you finance the deficit, it's also important that we don't lose sight of those capital projects in particular. I hold the view that if you are trying to build a road that you could have done in 1 year, but you did it in 10 years, that's 9 extra years wasted, for which Nigeria did not get maximum value for that investment. And we even end up with variations and all of that. So I believe this is something that is within our control, and we should be able to do it. The third and the last question is from the distinguished Senator Yahaya Abdullahi, I hope I got that right, who was making the point about Mr. President of the country haven't done a lot to stabilize our economy, particularly from the monetary side. And then his point is, what are we going to do differently in my role on the fiscal side beyond tax? So essentially, the way we see this, the way I see this is that we have to be intentional about trying to drive disinflationary growth. How does that work? From the fiscal side, we've seen increase in revenue, of the government as a result of the reforms around subsidy removal as well as naira flotation. Now, if you get more revenue because you take out subsidy, it's actually a transfer from the people to the government. So that sacrifices that the people make, the only way we can make it worthwhile is to spend that money in the areas of priority to them. And they could be as basic as road from the farm to the warehouse, factory, and the market. And you see the impact on the people almost immediately. Health center, schools. So the spending is one area we want to prioritize, both at the federal government level, but also working with the sub-national. We've actually started this conversation. I was invited to the National Economic Council retreat about 2 weeks ago, and these were some of the conversations we've had. So we believe that government can improve how we spend wisely, productively, and to help address issues around inflation. I have two very important examples I want to give. So this is not academic. If you think about it, the more room we can create to generate revenue and find the cash to fund our activities, the better for us. If you look at Nigeria's Eurobond, we have somewhere around $18.5 billion Eurobond. In the next 5 years, we have about $7 billion maturing. So which means in 5 years, we need to find $7 billion. But here is the good news. The rate, the yield on those $7 billion worth is now about 20% less than when we issued them. In other words, just imagine that we issue $7 billion to refinance the one that is falling due. We save ourselves from looking for $7 billion in the next 5 years. The amount we use to service the debt on a yearly basis falls by hundreds of millions of dollars. So you win in 2 dimensions. And imagine channeling all of that into productive capital expenditure. The impact will be significant. The other thing that a lot of Nigerians are talking about today is that we produce oil. Why are we bothered or being affected negatively by what is going on in Iran? Israel, Iran, and the US, they're quite far from us. But we are feeling the impact at the pump almost every other hour. In fact, one driver was saying that the amount he bought in the morning was different from afternoon. And I think that Nigeria has an opportunity here. What do I see? When we do our budget, for this 2026, we have about 64.8 is the benchmark for crude oil per barrel. And there's a risk. The risk is that if it falls below that, we're going to panic. If it goes above that, our people will suffer for it because they'll pay more. We can come up with a strategy, and this is done in several countries, of selling our crude forward. So Nigeria can say, how much barrels do we need equivalent to service Nigeria? Imagine that we sell that forward at $65 for the next 6 months. We do 2 things. We guarantee that we can finance our budget. Number 2, the Nigerian people have the stability that the price will not be going up and down the way it has done in the past few days. These are some of the ideas that I believe we can explore further with different stakeholders and see how this works for us. Thank you very much, Your Excellency.
Honourable Minister, to be honest with you, don't go into areas that will keep you here till 10 p.m. Why I'm mentioning this is that we have heard that we even had forward sales, and then we never saw the impact on the economy. And so you are coming into an area, what Nigerians will be very concerned about will be to have a minister who brings in innovation. We now have a president who has brought in innovations. But I give you an example, bitumen. There was a contract on bitumen many years, almost 7 or 10 years ago. An administration gave for massive exploitation of bitumen, which we have in commercial quantity. There is no way we'll be importing bitumen today if the next administration did not cancel that contract. And then we have people who want to ask you questions on the amount of mineral resources available in the country. For instance, Zamfara State. You go there, you see thousands of Chinese running around the bush. Despite the kidnapping, they are not afraid. Why are they there? Because something is attracting them. Illegal mining. You go to Niger State, you see gold. If it rains, if you are not careful, you pick a small quantity of gold on the ground. Nobody is exploiting all these things. It's not only, and then it's not only crude oil that we can pick on the floor. Then, of course, lithium is in commercial quantities, and I want to congratulate the governor of Nasarawa State. On behalf of the president, I commissioned the first lithium factory, and he has informed me that he has one that is bigger than that is even twice that. So we need innovation. You are now going to be also part of the policy makers. You are not going to only generate revenue. We are going to bring up policies that will enable investment, that will now bring out the revenue and lead to employment opportunities. So if we keep you here, you keep lecturing us as if you are in Harvard. We want this knowledge to be translated into real-time, actual benefits for all Nigerians. So I hope you understand. So I think we need this man back. We will need you back. Possibly, if the Senate confirms you and Mr. President goes ahead to swear you in, we would like you to come back and then we'll engage you. But for now, many senators that have questions, please put them down in writing and pass to me. I'll give him so that he will go and study and he can get back to us in writing. He has a lot of knowledge so we can save time. Because we already know he's very qualified. But the question then is, how do we assist him so that he can assist us? Are you getting my point? Many of these things, okay, yeah, any country should know that if there is a war in another country, it could affect Nigeria. So we make policies and forecast towards that. How do we prevent the collapse of our national grid? How do we ensure that there is stability in our currency? How do we make sure that we generate money from the natural resources we have? In almost all the states, how can we harness the potentials and turn them around? Because if we do turn these things around, Nigeria is a very rich country. But we are rich and poor because the policies have not been very consistent. So this is the first time a president is looking at laws of 1939, laws of 1959, and trying to bring them into modernity. And we are happy with that. But then you are coming with a lot of knowledge. Don't just lecture. You are now going to practicalize them. So we want to know what you do differently. Senator, so let's put it this way. I've said that if you have questions, you write. I'll write it. So, yeah. But let's get Senator. But no, wait. Before you advise, he is also chairman. I'm sure you are chairman of Customs Board.
Chairman of the Tax Reform and Fiscal Policy Committee.
But if you have met a minister now, will you be the chairman of Customs Board?
Yes, yes.
And so if you are going to be chairman of Customs Board, listen to somebody who's serving customs for over 35 years. Say, Father, no, let the father ask me a question based on what he has noticed, because customs also they are involved in revenue generation. He needs the money to be able to spend. Father,
Mr. Chairman,
Father,
my distinguished colleagues, my junior brother Oyedele Taiwo. My name is my son. He's just a little older than my first son.
Okay, but use your campaign voice so you can hear.
Okay. You will take it. Okay. It's good you are here now. This is almost an emergency period, not classroom teaching here and there. You are back now. What we need now is the practical solution to Nigerian economic issues. Number one, here in the 9th Senate, when leader was here, Senator Vioma Agege stood up here. We are talking of illegal mineral mining. Before I come to, it leads to smuggling of illegal mineral to Iran and Iraq, to China. He stood up here. He informed us that Zamfara state government brought a molded gold of 150 billion to Mr. President to be given to Emefiele so that they can deposit it into the account of Zamfara government, not to the central post. He now asks whether we agree that they can go back to the creek and be stealing their oil. Some of us said, well, since they are doing it in Zamfara, you can go on. So this thing went back to 600 barrels per day. Before the federal government took a decision to stamp out this thing, to raise it to 1.3 million barrels. Now, the military operation is on water. We have stabilized smuggling on that place. What is going on in Zamfara before Nasarawa took over of establishing mining industries is appalling. Zamfara is the richest state in Nigeria. Gold, uranium, silver, lead. Today, there is no single dollar sent into the account of federal government. And we are borrowing money all over the whole world from those people that stole our destiny there. What can you do as Mr. Minister to stop this carnage so that we stop borrowing money all over the world? Number two, when late Buhari was around, it was misadvised that they should close borders. Close borders to Nigerians in about 7 states bordering Niger. We advise that it will be counterproductive because of rice production. Today, foreign rice has not allowed Nigerian rice to survive. Then, Tokumbo cars are all over. You will take a trip. You will see what is happening. Is it not possible for you to write a memo to Mr. President that since we could not even produce a card that is going to be cheaper for the common man to ride, can't we take duty, collect revenue on these smuggled cars and smuggled rice so that we can have these trillions of naira that is in the pockets of individual into at least half of it into the federal government cover so that we stop borrowing money? You are the chairman. Thank you very much.
See what I wanted him to ask? Honourable Minister, in addition to that, Nigeria used to produce Volkswagen in country or assemble the parts in country. We used to have Santana, a car assembled in country. Pojo Nigeria Limited was assembled here. Many countries are not using all these foreign vehicles. They are using locally produced vehicles. Cuba and others, saving foreign exchange. What policy would you bring as a minister in charge of a very critical area of finance so that Nigeria can begin to at least assemble cars before we think of producing cars? So we can use made in Nigeria cars. At the time, even the heads of states and governments were using Pojo vehicles manufactured in Kaduna, I think. Then we're using Santana Volkswagen manufactured in Lagos and assembled, and Leyland trucks and all that. So for us, that's why I said we will need you back so that we can sit down together and give you ideas, and you see where you go and implement them. Is there anybody from Ondo who wants to? No. Yes, Ondo is right. I know, but before then, before he goes, let me hear from let somebody from his state attest to his character. I mean, we cannot bring a nominee like this from Ondo. It's the pride of the state. Let us give the senators from that area an opportunity to also express their confidence in him. Point of order.
Mr. President, sitting as chair, distinguished colleagues, I rose under Order 52 sub 4. And if I have your permission, Mr. President, I will read. Order 52 sub 4 on our rules of debate says a senator must confine his observations to the subject under discussion and may not introduce matters irrelevant thereto. With due respect to opinions expressed by our distinguished colleagues, I just want to say that I seek for the consent of the Senate, and especially of you as presiding officer, Mr. President, sitting as chair, that this nominee be not compelled to address some of the observations raised by distinguished Senator Father Hussein regarding gold in Zamfara versus crude oil in Niger Delta. I was also in the 9th Assembly, and I knew the kind of controversy this generated. He should be insulated from addressing that. We are here to screen him, just to be sure he's competent to assume the office for which he has been nominated. And Mr. President, you have addressed that very well. So I just want to say that the boundaries be set.
It's very difficult for the presiding officer to disagree with the leader. So your point of order is actually upheld. However, he did not emphatically ask him to address the issue of the gold in Zamfara and oil in Niger Delta. He only reminded us of what happened in the 9th Senate, that the government of Zamfara requested the CBN to custody gold worth 150 billion for gold bars for Zamfara State. And then the then Deputy Senate President said, in that case, if Zamfara State is allowed to exploit its gold and deposit same in CBN for the use of Zamfara State, can the states in Niger Delta also scoop their oil and deposit the proceeds for their own use? And then he said the preponderance of opinion was, you can go ahead. And then suddenly the production plummeted from 1.6 million barrels per day to 600. So they had to come back and say, no, you cannot do that. Niger Delta, you can't do it. And so they sent in the military and others to stop the illegal mining or crude theft. And so the production went up. What he was trying to emphasize, he was giving an analogy to show that whatever happens in a particular state can affect other states, and that the revenue of the Federation generated from any source of mineral should be paid into the Consolidated Revenue Fund of the Federation for the use of all Nigerians. And that is not what is happening now. That most Chinese are taking our gold away from here, and others are doing illegal mining of bitumen, and others are doing illegal mining of cobalt, and so many, and yet we are borrowing money as a federation. Can he, if he gets into office, suggest or bring up a policy document for the approval of Mr. President and Federal Executive Council that can assist us to reckon the proceeds of mineral proceeds, the proceeds of mineral exploitation in various parts of the nation for the use by all Nigerians? So what the Senate leader is saying is that we must excuse you from answering those questions now, but we must tell you to note those questions. So use them as, jot them down so that if you get into office, you can know where to bring up your policy direction. Ondo State Senator, yes, Senator Ibizagwa.
The Senate, the President of the Senate, sitting as the chairman, my very, very distinguished colleagues. My name is Senator Jide Ikishagba. I represent Ondo North Senatorial District, where Professor Oyedele is from. And to be precise, it's even from my federal constituency. I have to thank the entire House, the entire Senate, for giving this opportunity. And besides, we have gone through a survey, very, very intimidating, very immaculate, top-notch. And I don't think an uncommon CV. Mr. President, I will not want us to waste much of our time here, because some people will be going for prayer and breaking of fasting. So I will recommend that we should allow our
pride,
our
the pride of Ondo,
ministerial nominee to take about, or probably when he answered those questions from his attitude, because the taste of pudding is in the eating. This pudding had been eaten while he was organizing a tax reform program, and the entire country has benefited from it. Please, Mr. President and fellow district colleagues, we should allow him to go. Thank you very much.
Is that a motion?
Well, it looks like it came up as a motion. Distinguished colleagues, any motion like that must have a seconder. Yes. Can I request Senator Oshimole?
Point of order.
Senator Oshimole.
Point of order.
Mr. President, sir.
Let's Oshimole.
Mr. President, I want to thank you. My name is Adams Aliu Eric Oshomole. I represent the great people of Edo North. Thank you for this privilege. For me, sir, only people with qualification deserve to be interrogated.
Point of order.
I have my floor. No, you don't move a motion to shut down the Senate. This is the jockey house. I have been recognized. We have a presiding officer. We don't have assistant presiding officers. Please allow me the privilege. What I want to ask, Mr. President.
You are recognized, but please, my distinguished colleagues, every single person here has one question or the other on the economy of the nation. We have just found that the man is qualified. That's number one.
Point of order.
On what? Yes, Senator Wadaga. What order?
Why you don't raise a motion to stop a debate?
What do you mean there is something like that? Something that is contained here?
Even if there's a phone,
until we recognize
the prestige of the Senate. Yes, but not.
Order, Master.
Jimo, this is not UN procedures.
to report progress. Sitting as committee, Mr. Somebody is playing with it. Come on. I will use my campaign voice because I have one. My privilege as a sitting senator representing the most closest senatorial district to the FCT, my privilege as the chairman Senate Committee on Public Accounts will be infringed upon if I am not allowed to speak now on this matter.
Thank you.
Your point of order is overruled. Yes, because you only speak when the eye of the presiding officer catches you, not because you are chairman of a committee. And you said it's a privilege. It is not a right. No, it's not a right. You are only talking about privilege. But if you have anything you want to say, just sit down. People are already writing down questions and giving to him. So, Oshomole, did you second the motion?
No, sir. I thought, sir, with profound respect,
you did not second the motion.
Senate, remember, sir, under your leadership, we were intimidated by previous nominees, and they are now being replaced for this new one to come in. I think that the purpose of screening is for us to know the policy choices, not to show that debate. Once the principal officers have spoken, the rest of us are going to cover. I do not think that's the way it should be. I want to know the way the mind is working. We are dealing with a budget that performs on recurrent, it doesn't perform on capital. I need to know what it is.
Senator Oshomole, in view of the fact that I recognize you when you raise your hand, thinking that you are going to second the motion, and the motion has not been seconded, so far the motion of Senator Igbisagba that he be allowed to take a bow and go is hereby killed. Yes? Who wants to ask question? Who wants to ask question? Let them talk. Please, let me explain. Let me explain. Please sit down. Please sit down. Even Senator Wadada has a question. There's nobody that doesn't have a question. But please just use 1 minute or 30 seconds and ask question. Let him write it down. Even if he does not answer all, let's just give everybody an opportunity to say something. Senator Buhari.
You have recognized me, sir. Thank you.
No, it was to second the motion. We'll come back to you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. President. Buhari Abdul Fattah Oyonot. Mr. President, I join my other colleagues to thank...
After you, Senator Issa Jibrin. After Senator Issa Jibrin, Senator Olarode. After that, Senator Sugo Ekpeyon. After that, Senator Yaradua. After that, Senator Oshomole. From Senator Oshomole to Senator Ashiru. And from Senator Ashiru to Senator Ibia. From there, in 30 seconds, that means in 5 minutes, we can finish this.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Taiwo, my question is this. You are one of the strong actors of the...
Senator Buhari?
Sir.
Sorry, since you are not on your seat, you have lost the chance.
What do you mean? Mr. President, like I said, the question is just directly to Mr. Taiwo.
30 seconds.
Thank you very much.
It's about the value-added tax. The value-added tax, as good as it is, we need some certain explanation for you to help us, because you said it right now that we want to move from the public sector to the private sector. And if you look at the tax very well, you said when they pay the tax on behalf of the government, they can only retrieve back their money at the end of the year. If they are retrieving back their money at the end of the year, imagine them borrowing from the bank to go and pay. How will they survive? That's just my question. Particularly if you look at it now, at the airline industry, the British Airways and all the foreign airlines are not paying tax, but the domestic airline are paying that value added tax and passing it to consumers. In other words, that's one of the reasons why the price is skyrocketing. When you go back to your position after the president has decided to take you there, please look into it so that we can force the price to come down. Thank you, Mr. President.
Please, did you write that down? Nigerians are very interested in what will be the outcome of that question. Senator Issa Jibril.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. First, I want to commend the nominee. He's somebody I've known for a very long time. We share a lot in terms of background. So what I'm going to say here is purely advisory. Whether we like it or not, funding will always be a problem. Okay? For any economy that thinks right. Okay? You cannot limit your expenditures to your income. If you do that, you cannot grow. So, and that is why there's always provision for debt financing. I want to commend the federal government for what happened recently in terms of refinancing arrangements. That I think by now those refinancing arrangements must have been concluded. And that means that we are going to refinance some of our existing loans with less expensive and longer tenured loans, which is very commendable. But having said that, I want us to dwell a bit on the issue of public-private partnership arrangements. I want us to create enabling environments, actually through tax incentives for various establishments, various companies, various private individuals, private enterprises to partner with the government. There must be a way to encourage these people, especially foreign investors. As you know, foreign investors don't only look at Nigeria, they are looking at the conducive environments all over the world. If your terms are not conducive enough, they will not come here. We must be able to come up with package, okay, that will attract these foreign investors to come down to Nigeria and partner with us. Then secondly, the issue of import substitution strategy or enforcement of import substitution policy. There has been import substitution strategy all along, but it looks like it is not enforced. Okay, today you see fabrics all over the place, imported from all over the place. And we go to Kaduna, the Texas companies that were flourishing before that, employed so many people, go to Kaduna, Kano, they are all dead. So we must be able to enforce our import substitution strategy to protect local investors. Thank you very much.
You notice that most of them are very qualified. He has been an executive director in a bank. He has worked for years. So when he's asking for a point of knowledge. But he's a chartered accountant also. He's a fellow. So yours is to also listen to them, take something back, so that you can go and work. I hope you understand. Senator Asuko Ekpenyong, I had mentioned how it will go.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, distinguished colleagues. My name is Asuko Ekpenyong, Senator representing Cross River South. Mr. Taiwo, Oyedele, a lot has been said about your capacity, competence, and commitment in service to Nigeria over the last 3 years. I endorse that without any reservation. My question is this, though. Nigeria today has a revenue problem, as you have stated yourself. Now, the nomination has designated you as Minister of State for Finance. Under the Ministry of Finance, there's an arm, the Ministry of Finance Incorporated. This arm is saddled with the mandate of managing the portfolio of assets and investments of the federal government. MOFI.
Ministry of Finance
Incorporated. MOFI. This arm is mandated to manage the portfolio of federal government assets and investments which is estimated to be in the tune of 40 trillion naira, or about $27 billion. How do you propose to reposition this portfolio, this Ministry of Finance Incorporated, to leverage it, to increase the income and the revenue of this federal government? Thank you very much.
Thank you. The man speaking was Commissioner of Finance. He's also very well versed as a chartered accountant and others. So, Senator Yaradua.
Thank you, Mr. President, sitting as the chair. My distinguished colleagues, I'm Abdulaziz Musa Radua, representing Kasana Central. First, I want to commend Mr. President for nominating you, and I want to also commend you for the good work you have been doing. Mine concerns the military and other security agencies, as it affects the release of their funds. The military in particular, especially the Nigerian Army, they have their boots in all the 33 states of the Federation conducting various operations. They need a lot of combat enablers, which are supposed to be procured, because most of these combat enablers and heavy equipment they need are purchased from outside. And most of the releases, especially the capital releases, are not being released to them. Especially now, when Mr. President has declared a state of emergency on security. So I want to know, if confirmed as a minister, what can you do to ensure that the military, and by extension, the police and other security agencies, are placed on first-line charge, so that they get their, releases on time to be able to procure those combat enablers they need to fight this insurgency? Thank you.
Very relevant question, but again, subject to availability. Yes, Senator Larry.
Thank you, Mr. President. A very distinguished colleagues. My name is Senator Kamaruddin Olalere Oyewumi. I represent Osun West Senatorial District of Osun State. Let me join other colleagues by particularly thanking Mr. President for putting this very right peg in the right hole. Nigerians have seen, they have tested your capacity when you brought up the initially very controversial tax bill. But the way you went through that tax bill, going across various sectors of Nigerian academia, businessmen, further exposes your dexterity and the grasp of the subject matter. And that's why people are so happy. Because it's like bringing a coach to the football field. You prepare the tax bill, is now passed. They now ask you to come back, to come and monitor the spending of the money. And you said when you are speaking to us that people in town that are going to pay tax are asking their main question. After paying this tax, where will our money go? And said that is their main question. That is where I want to go. There are two important things that should be corrected. Our people have said it here. From 2004, the time we came in here, our budget cycle has been truncated to the extent that we are having 2-3 budgets running concurrently. When Mr. President spoke to us during the presentation of the budget, you are there, he said that will end by March ending. Today is 11th March. We don't know what is going to happen. But bringing you on board, we want you to take this as part of the miracle that we are going to perform. So that this year, as Mr. President has said, to be able to streamline our budget into one stream by the end of this year. This is very, very important. So that moving forward, the cycle from January to December will be maintained. How we do it, God will give you wisdom. Secondly, this one is an advice. I want to take from the Minister of Finance. Ishawale has one credibility in the Senate or National Assembly generally. If you call him 100 times, he will be here 100 times, no matter the circumstance. He may be there 10 minutes, take excuse, go somewhere and come back. But he never put us on a hold. This is not the same thing with other ministers that are even holding less important ministry. The office you are holding is very important that you interact regularly with the National Assembly. It's very, very key because every time we talk, we need information to be able to guide us in our own day-to-day activities. So we want you to take it as a matter of duty that whenever you are called by any relevant committee, you give us opportunity so that we rub mind together and give Nigeria the best they deserve. I wish you success. Thank you, sir.
Well, I think even that that last admonition is very, very important. Because some people don't understand that even the work of the executive, that the members of the National Assembly are almost the mouthpiece of the government. Wherever you go, they ask you questions and all that. So sometimes when the Director General, sets of MPAs, ministers are invited, they find reasons to be too busy to appear before committees of the National Assembly. So, and because we are working closely with the executive, we sometimes pretend to understand, but it's not funny if you are wanted and you don't come. Thank you for commending Waledu for always showing up whenever the committee is calling. So, Honourable Minister, will you be available when you are wanted for important, urgent interactions so that it will help your office and it will help the presidency and help Nigerians. Finally, oh sorry, not finally, Senator Oshomole. Wait, just 30 seconds. I'm watching the time.
Yes.
We are out of here by 4.
Mr. President, may God continue to bless you for your common leadership. I need not add anything with regards to his suitability. But I want my colleagues to bear in mind that those who have been removed, this Senate claimed them. So the issue is policy choices. Happily, from what he has done with the tax reform, I saw a progressive taxation that removed the burden of taxes from the poor and tried to keep it to where it should be. That gives me an idea that you belong to the progressive tradition of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. However, what I have seen in the course of our oversight, as encouraged by the Senate President, and also bearing in mind my own very limited experience as a former head of a subnational government, when your revenue expectation, because they are not, whatever you say, it is expected revenue. It will require miracle for your expectation to be 100%. And it's on the basis of your expected revenue that you formulate your expected expenditure. And like you have said, there might have been some element of exaggeration or too ambitious in terms of our expectation on the revenue side, which may well explain why the capital side didn't perform. But, Mr. President, I will call you as a witness. When we suffer shocks, when we were government, the current governors are very lucky. When we suffer shocks arising from all kinds of explanation, what we do, or what I did, is to relook at my recorded expenditure and remove any element of waste and then apply for environment to the House of Assembly to transfer resources appropriated for recorded expenditure so that I can carry out the capital projects which involve infrastructure. For example, I understand wages are not negotiable. I understand why we must service our foreign debts. All of this come under recurrent. But I do not understand why our ministers do not follow the instruction of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu with regards to how they travel and the size of their delegation. I will expect that once the revenue is falling short of expectation, a minister not being a minister of foreign affairs, who is supposed to travel 10 times in a year, that can be reduced to 2. Instead of carrying 20 people in the delegation, that can be reduced to himself and 1 or 2 technical assistants. Our foreign embassies should be used because you have trade desk in those ministries. You have all sorts of desk in those foreign ministries to do the job that our ministers are always traveling. The best evidence, sir, give me where you are coming from in the system. How many foreign ministers come to Nigeria compared to the number of Nigerian ministers that go abroad? So this wasteful aspect of our recurrent expenditure, which I have seen, committee after committee, you can run the federal government recurrent expenditure net of salary and debt obligation with 50%. So if you transfer that 50% through environment, you will have been able to fund some element of the capital side. The tragedy now is that whereas the recurrent perform 100%, the capital side, which is for infrastructure, is the one that perform 0. This is not how public finances is done. If you do it that way, you will find that even the workers you are paying them to render a service. When that service is not rendered because there's no capital provision, you are just paying people for doing nothing. So under your leadership, and considering the effort you invested in tax reform and prayerfully in tax collection, you must also ensure that the use of that money, when our president says, I am trying to fetch a bucket of water from a dry hole, when he fetch it, it shouldn't be used for a minister to go and live in Washington, to go and live in London. Everything our ministers must attend. How many foreign ministers come to Nigeria? How many foreign ministers of trade come to Nigeria? How many ministers of, you name it. So I want to plead with you that we should have a sensitive balance, because in the affairs of nations, no nation have enough to meet all the needs. That is why the business of government is about prioritization. May you prioritize our expenditure pattern in such a way that never again shall it be the case that because we didn't have enough money, we are able to fund recurrent, but our capital perform 0.
Thank you.
You have the wisdom, you have the intellect, and I'm sure you command the respect and the trust of Mr. President for him to have moved you to this level, for which I am very happy for you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. You come here as a witness.
Believes that in Akwa Ibom, when they tell us that we have lost 600 barrels of crude, and therefore allocation has dropped. You see all your capital projects.
We had zero allocation or zero revenue from oil for over a year. We didn't have $1 coming into the consolidated revenue of the Federation because of policies. And so that made us to share 300 and something, 400 and something as governors. Today, governors are sharing 1.9 trillion, 2.something trillion, and all that. That's why I said, what a wonderful time to be a governor. Yes, we had to find all sorts of means to survive and still deliver the dividends of democracy to the populace. So, Honourable Minister designate, we are saying we did our best under very difficult circumstances. So, rejig the situation, look at the recurrent expenses, and then also look at the capital component, where the recurrent expenses is too much, and where certain frivolous trips are to be avoided. You have to advise on that. You understand? You are carrying all this weight of questions because we don't have any other person with us now from the economic team. It's you alone standing here. So I apologize, but you can see the way they are feeling. Senator Ipia.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I also want to join to thank you, Mr. Oyedele, for your appointment as the Minister of Finance in waiting. My concern actually is on the issue of Nigeria refineries. If the refineries we have in Nigeria they are working, I don't think we'll be facing what we are facing today. We have about 5 refineries. I don't think any of them is working. Last week we bought fuel for 860. Yesterday I bought fuel for 1,100. If Nigerian refineries are working, I don't think this will happen. So I also want you to look at the reasons why our refineries are not working, because as it is today, is like a market of monopoly, where somebody dictates the business, how the price will be. That is one. On the other hand, Nigeria, as we know, is a consuming nation. And a consuming nation can never grow except it chooses not to be a consuming nation. And as I believe, within now 5 years' time, according to research, AI will take over most of the businesses. What are your plans? How do you think Nigeria job seekers will cope with this situation in 5 years' time when AI has taken over most of the job for the youth? Because the youth, as we know, they are the leaders of tomorrow. And if jobs are not created for them, the issue of insecurity, banditry, all of them will still be there. So I want to look at this area critically and tell us how you can look at this, how you can forecast ahead to ensure that we create jobs for our people in in some years' time, because in some years' time, AI will take over the market and there will be a lot of job lost. So I want you to also look at this area as the Minister of Finance, because you are the hub. The economy is in your hand. The policy you adopt will generate, will look hard, will focus how the economy is going to go. So I want you to look at this area critically. That those are my 2 points. I wish you success. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Ashu.
Mr. President, distinguished colleague, we give praise for Mr. President for nominating an erudite scholar for the position of Minister of Finance, State. I just want to refocus the Senate to what I will describe as an embassy on rural economy. Most senators here, I'm bold to say that hardly will you find 6 senators here who are totally city-based. The economy of rural area is important. And in rural area, the only currency that is king is the naira. In fact, in many rural areas, hardly do they recognize what you call dollars. I just want to say that I will advise the minister designate to concentrate seriously on strengthening the naira, because naira is the currency that is recognized in most rural areas. I want the new policy to focus entirely on how naira will be strengthened far beyond the present value. I so submit, Mr. President.
Jimo Ibrahim.
Thank you very much, Mr. Senate President. My two colleagues, let me align myself also, without wasting time, with the visions and how Mr. President was able to locate Taiwo to handle some of those reforms. That our colleagues here, Honorable Minister Designate, have talked much about budget financing. They talk about projects. The reason for that is that they are concerned about cost overrun if payment is not made. That will lead to schedule delay. And as the Senate President said, benefit shortfall. So if you have to construct a road last year, you don't construct it, you move to next year, you have cost overrun automatically. That depletes your budget. You have to, like the Senate President suggested, you have to bring innovative ideas about how to arrest cost overrun, benefit delays, schedule delays, and benefit shortfall on government projects. And every senator here have one project or the other in their constituency. If they are not realized, there is what we call massive benefit shortfall. Your job is actually to talk much about economic sustainability. And the last thing I will say is that all the effort put together by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu
can only be appreciated if you, as Minister of State for Finance, will propagate the idea of Federal Data Bank. We don't have data. Everybody talking here, they are all first class. Look at the kind of narrative they bring to bear in economic development. Massive. So, where is the data? We have to be empirical, scientific. We don't have data. Maybe the only thing I want to say is that it's unfortunate that the Common Senate President probably didn't have time to create data bank in Akwa Ibom in those days. Because we struggle now to find out some of those achievements and quantify them in data. At federal level, let me say clearly, my younger brother from Ondo State, you put your name in indelible ink and you will forever be remembered in the legacy of the Hope Agenda if you can champion the cause of data. Forget about all these revenue, costs, adjustments, strategy sustainable, innovation destruction. These are semantics. Where is data? I will be leaving very soon. I don't have my project in a database. All the projects approved for me by the Senate President, I can't go back down on my day of exit to clear the computer and bring out the data. Asuwaju almost spent his life at presidency in Nigeria on national cause. Will he leave after 8 years without being able to print out scientific data? So I would suggest maybe you need international partnership in this regard. And we are available to help you to ensure that IFC buy into the idea of data. Mr. Senate President, IMA will come here, they come with some survey, data set, 10, 20. They go to the airport, administer them, they go around like that, and they come with bundles of econometrics, scientific projection, and drawing graph. These are pseudo data. We need data. Statistics office is not working. And let me say finally that I will join the Senate President and the leadership of the Senate to commend that much collaboration. And you have said so, that both for the Senate making fantastic laws, the economy would have suffered a setback. President Buhari printed 30 trillion on ways and means. It is not easy to fill those holes in one day. When the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu took over, revenue to cash ratio was 1%. A manager is coming to manage an asset in which only 1% is in cash. How will he manage it? But today, like SP said, he has stabilized the economy. So there is need for us to move forward. Revenue to servicing debt ratio, 96%. If we make 100 naira, 96 naira is used to pay bad debt. Today is 68%. Revenue to debt ratio itself was 34%. Today is close to that. So I want to join my colleagues and also see their feelings, like Senate President have really said, echo their feelings. The project must be financed, and you must bring in innovative strategy that will help Mr. President to retreat history and bring out of this little left, because we are coming from financial dangerous lane and we have left that. Thank you very much, and I must say good afternoon, Mr. Senate President.
Thank you. Senator Wadada.
Mr. President, sitting as chair, distinguished colleagues. Mr. Nominee, let me first of all commend Mr. President for nominating you and for all that made you to now. If will be brought to bear, I will congratulate the country before congratulating you. Having said this, all that had been said by my colleagues, I align myself to. Mine may not really be questions, but to draw your attention to certain salient issues that have got to do with economic growth and development. I am happy the Senate President mentioned the comatose state of the automobile sector in Nigeria. One of the key reasons has got to do with the policy of the last administration that led to the enactment of the Finance Act 2021, which reduced import duty on imported vehicles from 35% to 5%. Meanwhile, it was initially put at 35% to discourage importation so as to enable the automobile sector at home to thrive. That policy changed it from 35% to 5%, thereby opening up the doors of our polity or economy to all kinds of importation of vehicles. And the automobile sector all over the world is known to be one of the major sources of employment. So look at that. 2, on fiscal and monetary policies, though in some of the presentations this was said but in a different way. What I need you to look at is anytime the fiscal policy is tight, the monetary policy should be loose, and vice versa. What am I saying? If taxes are high, then interest rate from the monetary side should be low, so that whatever citizens lose there, they gain it here, and it balances their economic power. Then private sector, as much as we are heading towards a private sector driven economy, which is as a result of the policies brought onto the table by the government of the day, President Ashwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
You now want to ask him a question, right?
Mr. President, you are distracting me.
Are you asking a question or you are trying to lecture him on what he should do when he gets into office?
I am directing him to that. That's why I said mine may not be questions, but drawing his attention.
No, we are looking for questions.
So I can turn them to questions if you want. They are my materials. They are all my intellectual properties. So I can turn them to anything. Mr. President, the uncommon president, I am speaking uncommonly. The private sector, Mr. Oyedele, you had said in a number of fora that MTN, as a service provider in Nigeria, pays the highest VAT, which was pegged at 200 billion per month. In 2024, MTN paid for the whole year of 2024 250 billion as VAT. How do we strike? I am speaking now from the perspective or angle of being chairman, Senate Public Accounts. So we look at that and see how best we can balance that. We have a lingering tax payment from multi-choice in 2022 to the tune of 1.8 trillion, which they went to court and lost in court. Today, between NCC and Nigerian Revenue Service, the records cannot still be. What would you do to strike a balance in situations like this so that we reject the economy to the level that will be seen truly to support the policies of this administration that is bent on turning around the fortunes of this country, which is why you are appointed as a minister. Now I congratulate you.
5 minutes, 32 seconds. As against 30 seconds. Senator Victor Ahmed, just round off with 30 seconds so we can go.
Thank you very much. Mr. President, my name is Senator Victor Ume, OFR. I represent Anambra Central Senatorial District. Mr. Taiwo Oyedele, I want to congratulate you for appearing before us as the Minister of Finance, Minister of State for Finance designate. I encountered you in a number of public fora debates on tax reform bill, and you recall my contributions during those debates. I'm very pleased with your nomination because you are a square peg in a square hole. I welcome that with relief. My question is on the ease of doing business with the government of Nigeria. Ease of doing business. You know that for things to go well and for the government to enjoy favorable rating, the ease of doing business is a very important factor. Any person who does business with government should be able to get paid. Should be able to get paid. He's 50 years, Mr. President. 50 years old. Very strong man. Okay. So my concern is on the ease of doing business with the government of Nigeria. My colleagues have spoken, particularly the Chief Whip of the Senate, on the issue of budget implementation. But the particular concern I have is when somebody does business with government, as the Minister of State for Finance, how will we bring confidence to bear in that transaction that somebody who has performed will get his money on time as soon as he discharges his responsibility in the contract? So as Minister of State for Finance, how are you going to guide this process so that that confidence level will be built again? That if you do your business with government, government will pay you as soon as you discharge your own part of the agreement or the contract. Thank you very much, Mr. President. I'm very happy, Mr. President, that you finally recognized me today.
Finally?
Yes, I've been raising my hand, so I'm happy, very happy with you in the...
My eye did not catch you. Thank
and you got me at the right time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So that the Southeast will not be marginalized, two of you can ask questions at the same time. Decide amongst yourselves.
I should ask. Thank you, Mr. President. First of all, I want to commend Mr. President, President Tinubu, and also commend the Senate for all the time we led the nominee to expand our tax net. My questions are very simple to you. You can see, I also want to commend the Minister of Finance we are going to be working with. He's one of the ministers. When you invite him to this Senate, he will be there 10 minutes to time to wait for you to come. I hope you will abide by that. My questions are simple. Inflation has gone from 24% to 15%. Food inflation has gone from 21% to 8%. And the capacity utilization of industries are stagnant. Manufacturers are not selling goods in the warehouse. And the ministry, we see either Ministry of Agriculture or Finance importing wheat or something to make rice, paddy for rice. We are not encouraging our farmers to go back to farm, and we cannot do. Senator Abdullahi was talking here. What President Tinubu have done a lot to grow this economy. What we are lacking now is growth. People must come out and fight. You people who are technocrats, everything is not about president. People who are working with the president should stand up and work with him and show how the economy can get headway to growth. How are you going to do this that manufacturers will regain confidence of manufacturing of their goods to the Nigerian market? What are you going to do for manufacturers who are today not exporting? They are not even servicing the local market because of capacity utilization is down and imports are down. Raw materials are not coming from the bush. I might know you say, no, that is security. How are you going to work to coordinate with the coordinating minister of economy to make sure that we come on track? We cannot be speaking all this grammar without actual growth on the economy. We'll be wasting our time. President has stabilized foreign exchange. President has stabilized fuel, although you can see what Iran is doing. We must also see a way we can build a valve in that if Iran or US is sneezing, Nigeria will not be sneezing. We'll be laughing if need be. But laughing on people dying is not possible. But we'll laugh on our economy. What are you going to do to help President Tinubu to continue building and putting growth on the economy? This is my question to you.
Thank you.
I am very happy you are appointed, and I'm happy you are a very good candidate. Nobody can doubt that. I've known you for a long time, and you will do very well to support the main minister there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, just 30 seconds.
Thank you, Mr. President. I won't take as much time as Ojo Sokalo. I just want to thank you, Mr. Senate President. Sometimes you do uncommon things. You have allowed us to ask questions to this nominee. And Nigerians will see that we're asking questions. Because this nominee is capable. It's not most times when you bring a capable nominee, you just ask him to take a bow and go. You have stopped all those. I want to commend you, Mr. Senate President, for giving us this opportunity. And also I want to thank Mr. President. This is about the first time a ministerial nominee is being sent to us with the portfolio of his office. So I want to commend Mr. President. This is a novelty. And I hope it will continue. Because now we know the type of questions to ask him. Nobody will ask a question about health now or about petroleum. You know where the man is going to. So that's why you can see all the questions are tailored. So I will just take one brief question. The issue of capital gain tax has become a problem in our capital market. It used to be 10%, but it has been moved to 30% for a gain of 10 million. So if you make a gain of 10 million and above, and you are taking the money out, you pay a tax of 30%. That is high. It's discouraging foreign investors from coming in. The global average of capital gain tax on shares and stock all over the world is between 15% and 20%. Why is our own 30%? This is the right person to answer the question. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Honourable Minister, start from that last question.
Thank you very much, Mr. President and distinguished senators. I've taken all the notes. A lot of the comments and the advice are issues that we'll take forward with all seriousness. So I'll spend the few minutes that I have to answer some of the questions, starting with the last one. So the last question is about capital gains tax on the capital market. And what we have done seems to not be well understood by a lot of the players. So what we have done is we've created categories of investors. Category 1 is where you have like 99% of the investors who don't have portfolio where they can sell up to 150 million naira a year. So anybody who sells up to 150 million naira a year with gains no more than 10 million pays no capital gains tax at all. If they exceed those thresholds of either more than 150 million or more than 10 million naira gain, they have another exemption, which is just reinvest. You buy the shares of X, you put it in the shares of Y. Why did we do that? One of the most fundamental attributes for a capital market, Nigeria needs a capital market that can grow to about $1 trillion because we need it to fund our development, private sector and public sector, like the size of South African market. One of the most fundamental attributes for a capital market is liquidity. So you need activity so that when you buy, you want to sell, you are not stuck there. And one way to create that is to incentivize reinvestment so that liquidity will be there. So that was the reason we brought that. Essentially, everyone, including foreign portfolio investors with hundreds of millions of dollars, are entitled to total tax exemption. It's just that we attach a condition to it to say, please reinvest. If you are not reinvesting, the remaining 99% of investors are people just trying to invest. We have between 60 to 90 billion dollars that is invested by Nigerians in virtual currency, virtual assets. These people don't invest $1 million. It's $50 here, $200 here. We want that to be attracted to the capital market without any incident of tax, no conditions attached. So we are confident that this policy will help the Nigerian market. We're discussing with the stakeholders because we know no law is perfect. It would be arrogant for us to think that the law is perfect. We'll use data, and as the need arises, we'll come back to the National Assembly with finance bill to make corrections as we go along. The other issues that were common from many of the questions, which are also critical, one of it is manufacturing and creating jobs and issues around import substitution. Incidentally, we've done some work in this area. We've spent enormous amounts of time with Manufacturers Association of Nigeria and their members. One of the things we identify is that our fiscal policy is not properly aligned with the goal of industrialization. And I'll just give one example. We did an analysis and we found that the tariffs, when you import raw materials and intermediate products, the tariff is higher in most cases. The tariff is higher in most cases than the tariff on the finished product. But there was a gentleman who came to one of our sessions and said, all these things you are saying is nice. And he showed me the document, gave me a copy. He said, this is what I produce. Duty is 5%. I need some raw materials to produce it, it's 15%. And he asked me a simple question, do you want us to continue to produce in Nigeria? So those issues, I can give the assurance that working with the team, we will look at them so that we align our fiscal policy with our aspiration of industrialization and import substitution. There's also the question and comment that is very important around the interplay between the monetary policy and fiscal policy. Particularly, how do you make it, trying to avoid complex stuff, to make it counter-cyclical. If you are tight on monetary, how do you adjust it from the fiscal side so that you don't choke the economy? And some of these measures is also tied to spending, which is one of the questions that has been asked. You can be intentional in making sure that your spending is to drive disinflationary growth. When you spend money on infrastructure, for example, you accomplish so many things at the same time. Imagine you are building roads. You cut the time for travel and the cost for travel, including the cost of logistics. But you're also creating jobs because people are working on those construction work, they're feeding their family, and they're paying taxes. And then at the same time, you improve the quality of life, and more importantly, you can demonstrate to the people that the taxes you're paying is working for you. We believe, even though this has been a big challenge for our country, we think we can turn it around to an opportunity and build forward. The other one I want to address is the comment around even the efficiency of spending. And I do agree, we can be more efficient. One thing I've observed myself is that we have not truly implemented a zero-based budgeting. So we just build on inefficiencies. So I did 10 billion last year. I want it to be 12 next year. And we're not taking a step back to ask questions, do you actually need 10 billion? So that on recurrent and the other expenses that are not exactly to do with infrastructure, we can gain efficiency. There was a particular comment on VAT and referring to some of my comments about how much MTN paid. I think it was distinguished Senator Wadada. But the clarification is important, which is that the data that I shared, I think was one of the town hall meetings, was the amount the MTN paid for that month. And it was a accumulation of, there's this thing that was introduced around 23-24. We call it withholding VAT. So we found out that many small businesses, they will invoice you with VAT, and they don't understand that they're supposed to remit it to the government. They collect the VAT and they just spend it. By the time you go and do an audit and you say you're owing, they can't find the money. So government then decided that big players who have a lot of these suppliers, like MTN, some banks, should, when they send invoice to MTN, they shouldn't pay the VAT to that person. They should withhold the VAT and remit to the government. So the amount you see credited to MTN as their VAT is not really their VAT alone. So it includes the VAT on what they are doing, their own services, and the VAT on their suppliers. So just to clarify that. There's another point as well that I think is important around, the distinguished senator had said that how do we stabilize the price of petroleum products? And the point I was making before, I'm aware of the forward contract. What I'm suggesting is forward to local refiners. So the person who is refining, Dangote Refinery says, I need to think about replacement cost. If I have to buy one barrel at $120, $100, I need to adjust the cost before that cost arrives. And that impacts, unfortunately, when those prices go up, they have a ripple effect on other costs. When they start coming down, some of those costs don't come down back. So there's merit in ensuring there's stability. If we forward sell to local refiners under their understanding that we're giving you this at this future rate, you mustn't adjust your price because prices are going up elsewhere. That's not your business. And the advantage to the government also is, if price of crude oil goes down, government is protected for its budget. So I believe it's something that can be explored. I think the last thing I want to mention, like I said, we've noted all the points. We're grateful for the advice and the input, and we look forward to more engagement. I promise the Senate and the National Assembly that anytime you call, I'll show up. Because it's something I have done in the tax reform, even in difficult circumstances. We never hesitated to show up. We think that's what public service is about. So the last one I want to talk about is this payment to contractors. It also came up several times. And I think that beyond ensuring that as a government we can be trusted, you ask me to go and do something, you say it's 1 billion. Maybe you gave me 200 million. I borrowed money to complete it. I now have to beg you for years to be paid. It creates a lot of damage. And I'll tell you, we also pay what I call the trust deficit premium. What that person will do if they ever work for government again is a 1 billion project, they'll say is 2. Because they need to keep financing the fact that we will not pay on time. And they are paying interest at 30%. They will build it into it. Which means, if we can be more deliberate in saying this is the budget, this is the revenue, beyond the revenue, this is the cash planning. And based on the cash, if you know the cash won't come on time and you're unable to borrow, then don't start the project. When you start the project, pay on time, and you start finding out that even the cost of many of these projects will come down. One of the major reasons why government will build a road and it will be 10 billion, and private sector will build it and it will be 6 billion, is this particular reason. So I take it as a priority issue to work with the team to find solutions to it. It can't be that it's impossible to solve it. But there are countries around the world where you rather work for government than even the private sector because it's the sovereign. But in Nigeria, sometimes this can be a challenge. So, Mr. President, distinguished senators, I'm very grateful for this opportunity to have this engagement with the Senate. And of course, if you approve and confirm my nomination, I look forward to more engagement. Thank you very much, and God bless you.
Thank you so much. Our nominee, Mr. Taiwo Oyedele, and I also congratulate the President. Your intellect is never in doubt. I want to also congratulate you for what you did with the tax reforms. Your educative rambles around the country helped a lot to douse tension. and your appearance or appearances in various fora also assisted to educate Nigerians that it was a good thing for the taxes to be harmonized. And I think it brought down a lot of tension. So now, Mr. President has found it necessary to elevate you beyond being a special advisor to now being a minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Whether you call it Minister of State or full minister, it will depend on the responsibilities given to you. I know that you are going to handle the same responsibilities as your colleague ministers. I've been a minister before, so I know what I'm talking about. So I believe that you are a square peg in a square hole, and I pray that the Senate approves and confirms you expeditiously. And you know, we had to do this in a hurry because we are hoping that Mr. President's trip, which is very good for Nigeria, to renew the ties we have with United Kingdom next week. Somebody like you should be on the team so that you can talk with your colleagues there who are also very intellectually endowed. That's why we had to rush to make sure that you are here, because we already know you. It's also possible that we could have said, take a bow and go. But Nigerians out there who are listening to you are getting more educated, and they know that you are not going to have a lot of what I may call working documents. So that as you are going, take the questions as something that you go and study in your office and know the kind of policies to generate and know which areas to touch, because they all make sense. Collectively, will assist us to put the economy on the right footing, as contemplated by the President with your nomination. So congratulations. I also thank the former Minister of Defense and all those who sat throughout. Kayode, thank you so much. Senior Advocate of Nigeria, and all the members of your entourage. It's not a waste of time. We are satisfied with your appearance, and we know that yes, indeed, we will benefit a lot from your wealth of experience over the years. Leader of the Senate.
I thank you, Mr. President, sitting as chair, and very distinguished colleagues. It has been a day well spent and a time well invested. At this point, may I now move that the nominee be allowed to take a bow and leave. And secondly, I move also that the Senate, upon his departure, that our Order 12 on floor privileges that had been suspended be restored for us to continue with the consideration of this exercise. I so move, Mr. President.
Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished colleagues, I'd like to second the two motions moved by the Senate Leader. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, the motion has been moved that we restore our floor privileges by allowing our strangers to take a leave of the chambers, and then, of course, that we continue with the proceedings of the Senate. I know many of our colleagues are watching from the tea room, and some are probably fasting room. Fasting room will be when you go to United Nations. Those in support of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Sorry, Ashiru, you don't want him to leave. He has to. Thank you so much. Take a bow, and then you can leave. Well done.
The confirmation screening of Mr. Taiwo Oyedele has just been concluded, with so many questions revolving around growing the economy of Nigeria. And the Senate will, any moments from now, continue with the exercise of either confirming the ministerial nominee after they've taken the vote. He's exiting the red chamber now.
No need.
No, just one question.
No need.